Hey everyone, we are here with Stephen Lee, who did very, very well at the World Championships this year. Mr. Stephen, Nova Grapplers. Just give an intro.
Alright guys, what's up guys? I got 4th place at Worlds this year around with Nova Grapplers. I know you guys can't believe I played this deck, but I decided to be the people's champ and bring this menace to Worlds this year. And surprisingly did very well. Hopefully you guys like my deck profile today, and we'll see a little bit more in depth of how I played this deck and how it actually got top 4.
I thought you were a Highlander, a Regalia, and a Gold player. I didn't know you were a Nova Grappler player until like Vancouver. And I was like, there's no way he's bringing this deck to Worlds, but turns out you did. So
yeah, we did some testing with some WCC people like Solemn, Derek, and Wirab, and then we ended up thinking that it might have actually be a good pick against the current meta. And I'll talk about like why I play some cards in this video against what specific decks, and hopefully you guys will understand.
Yeah. One thing also you mentioned, it's good in the current meta. What actually makes this deck currently good? Because I know, Novus has always popped up as like the random deck at Worlds. I think like every year we always see someone playing it, but never really makes it to the top. What is the main difference this year apart from it's the Steven factor? It's bringing it.
So aside from me piloting this deck, I think it's a very good choice this year. All around, just because of the meta is more of like a control meta.
Yep.
Decks like Ghidorah is running around, Chaos Breaker, Narukami, things like those. This is a very good matchup into them. I know some people would argue against me and say, like Joker isn't, or or like Chaos, things like Narukami is not a good matchup for Nova Grappler. But I'll explain my thought process on some of the card choices and what to do against those specific matchups to make it so that you understand how I won. It's good.
Yeah, because traditionally, those control decks are supposed to beat the Nova Grappler, but you're saying that you got the spice to beat them, right?
Yeah. In Vancouver, I went 11-0 with this deck. I faced a ton of Narukami and a few Chaos Breakers, and I sweeped them all. It was actually crazy. And then I played a couple of them during Worlds this time around. I went X1 during Swiss, and then I lost in top 4 to Fenrir. But I lost to Gold Paladin in Swiss, I think round 4 due to time. I think if you guys want to watch that match, it is in the Bushiroad Premium Worlds vlog. Yeah. So take a look at that.
They've uploaded it all, so you can watch the cool games. Yeah.
Oh yeah, take your time to watch those games, guys.
All right.
But anywho, let's get into the deck profile. I guess I'll start with my main Vanguard, which is 3 V Victor. So V Victor is, this card is just really great because it's inherently just a straight up +2.
Mm-hmm.
You get the XL2, you draw a card, and you check top 7 for an Extreme Battler grade 2 or less, and you just call that guy. Basically, this helps you search for your pieces, get your combo cards, anything that you want, pretty much. Your entire deck is your oyster.
I mean, that's crazy, right? Because everyone's going kind of back to the old school to combo with the history collection to get a double XL. You're going, V is still the best, right? V Victor.
Yeah. Because the other card that people play is the history collection Victor, so it is the G Victor. This card is very good. However, it doesn't plus and feel nearly as good as going into V Victor. It's kind of like the difference between going first and going second. Preferably, I would preferably want to go second in this deck just to pop off with my Stride card. We'll talk about him later, but his name is Bustard. Bustard is basically my sandbag card, which I like to call. He basically pluses you a ton, and your finisher is the turn after. But if your opponent just dies to Buster, then he just dies to Buster.
Yeah,
but
that's what it is, right?
It is the difference between going into Buster with V Victor versus going into Vic Ted with G Victor.
Okay.
So G Victor doesn't really inherently plus you with Vic 10. It only gives you the draw 2 from XL2.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. While going with V Victor, you get to pretty much get the +2. One of them being a search from top 7.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
And then going into your preferred stride like Bustard, which can drive check you, I don't know, 6 to 7, 8, maybe 8 cards a turn. That's a +8. Like +5, sorry, minus the 3 drive checks. Okay. Like, that's crazy, right?
Okay. But I guess, yeah, going first, you can just go into this and get the extra draws, and then go into Buster later if you're forced to go first, of course. Which is,
yeah.
I guess it's not often, right? Because you get to choose if you want to go first or second.
Exactly, yeah. And then the next creature I want to show you guys is called Zubat. So this card is very old, very, very, very ancient. If you guys have played G era when Stark was around, this card was nuts. Yes. So basically, this card is on stride. You counterblast 1, you draw a card, then you get to call a card from your hand and give one of your units on the board the ability that when it attacks, you get to restand another rear guard. So that's great for things like Bustard or you just want a combo, right?
Yep.
The second ability is a refund ability. So at the end of the turn, if you have 1 or less face-up cards in your damage zone, you get to unflip 1. And then if you have 1 or less soul, you get to soul charge 1. If you got to soul charge 1 and unflip 1 this turn, you get to draw a card.
So good. So good.
So good. So basically, it just refunds your entire resource line for the next turn. Gets you ready to just pump your opponent for that crazy damage.
Yeah.
Another reason why I play this card is that it's very good versus the control matchup. For things like Narukami, for example, this just by riding this card alone, you already denied them the Excel circle that they would get off of Exterminate. Mm-hmm. So Narukami likes to plus off the card called Exterminate, where for every face up front row rear guard or like open rear guard front row, they get to draw a card.
Yes,
that's crazy. So just by having no Excels, you already deny that.
Yeah.
Another thing about this card is that it's great versus Link Joker as well because you don't spawn the gift marker for them to take away. Mm-hmm. For example, specifically for Chaos Breaker at least. Another card I like to play with a lot in along junction with this card is Gosachi. So that card came out with the same set as this card.
Yep.
We'll talk about it more in the grade 2s, but it basically has inherent resist and just having just having inherent resist makes it very, very difficult for some decks to get rid of. Especially with this new ruling that we just heard about.
Yes.
With resist. So before, I guess I'll show you now. But this card is Gosachi. It has resist if you have a Victor Vanguard.
Yeah.
The only way for your Narukami to get rid of this card would to be playing a card called Cho. So Cho would technically target the column and then kill Gosachi. However, now if you have double Gosachi in your front row, then your opponent cannot get the extra draw cards from Exterminate.
Yep.
And they would have to just play. Yeah, they can't get rid of this card anymore. They can't even Cho anymore. So their out before is just useless. Like them, Nova got buffed.
Yeah, I think it's pretty crazy that in the age where like everyone's getting circles and gifts, you're like, man, to counter the control, we just don't get anything. And it's
yeah, exactly, man. That's how you gotta play sometimes. Like that's why this deck is so good in the meta. It's just completely unfazed by those control decks, especially another card called Freeze Ray Dragon. Freeze Ray Dragon, when it's a card, Link Joker, whenever you take a damage, you lock one of your opponent's cards. What are you gonna lock when you have a front row full of resist? Nothing.
That's right. Nothing.
So obviously I play 4 of these bad boys, 4 Gosachi. This card is just absolutely crazy. Along with its resistibility, it has 2 more abilities. So on swing, you counterblast 1 and choose another rear guard and stand it.
Yep.
That's
good.
That's good. Yeah, it's good. Like whatever you can ask for, Nova Grappler. Another thing is that in GB2, when it restands, so Gosachi itself restands, it gets +7. So in a meta right now where everyone's using history collection strides, there are a lot of 11Ks.
Yeah.
And Gosachi being a 9K plus 7K makes it great to hit 16. 16 being a magic number. You know, obviously you always want to hit magic numbers. Magic numbers are the sweet spot of how to beat your opponent's hand down efficiently.
Yep. And everyone's like so funny. Like everyone used to run it. They ran 13Ks. Now they're coming back. They get punished. Right?
Yo, for real, man. The next grade 2 I want to talk about is one of the PRs. It's called Sazanda. So this Sazanda card is definitely the MVP of the deck. I want to say this card is absolutely bonkers. It's just great. It basically nullifies your opponent's triggers.
Yep.
That's how I like to see it, at least. So basically, whenever you restand a card, if Sazanda is on a Excel circle, it gives that card and Sazanda 5K until the end of the turn.
Yeah, I'm looking at the effect, and I'm noticeably missing that there's a lack of once per turn, pink icon there.
Exactly. So if you do things like, trigger, favorite champ, or you just keep restanding the same guy over and over again, man, that guy's going to get huge.
And you can restand the Vanguard as well. It's just a unit, right?
Yeah, so it targets a unit. So if your Vanguard restands, it also gets 5K. Isn't that crazy? Wow. So if you have 2 of these cards out in Excel circles and you're just restanding, oh my god, they're getting plus 10K. What are your opponent's triggers? Like, their defensive triggers mean nothing. Another thing about this card is when you ride out grade 2, you can check top 5 for an extreme battler.
Just call it.
I believe grade 2 or lower, yeah, and just call it.
It's free.
So the primary target is, guess what? Gosachi. That's probably one of your best targets in to check in the top 5. It's another, it's a rear guard that you set up for next turn. Your opponent can't touch it if you call it in the back row. And then you just push it up next turn and just have a free rear guard,
Nice.
It's great. The next card, grade 2, is also a promo. It's the V promo that just released. Every clan got their V promos this world's around, and this is the one that Nova Grapplers got. So it's the reveal and then ditch it and then check top 5 cards of your deck, add a grade 2 or less to your hand. This is the beginning of your ride phase. Its other ability is that once per turn, on swing while boosted, you can Soul Blast 1 and pretty much target one of your units.
What?
Yeah, you target one of your units, keyword units, and if your opponent's grade 3 or greater, you stand the whole column. So what's neat is that if you have Sazanda on the Excel circle and you swing with this card while boosted, you can target your booster and immediately stand the whole column. And Sazanda will give plus 5K to each card that stood.
Yeah,
so
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it immediately already it triggers, the power triggers, as well as it's the 2 cards for 1 Soul Blast. I want you guys to take in that it's the 2 cards for 1 Soul Blast because it's very important when you talk about a card.
Like no CB, right? No CB. You choose just one of the other regards and just the booster and stand, it's 2 cards. It's like buffing Sazanda by 2.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's very, very helpful when you're going into your buster turn. So that's
true.
very important.
True. Big true.
The next grade 2 I wanted to play, I wanted to show you guys, is the Dual Flare grade 2. I know you guys have never seen this card in your lives, probably. It definitely got overlooked and ignored in the V series because Dual Flare was just horrible. You don't even need to look at that wow. Basically, what this card does is that it allows you to hit for magic numbers against force decks.
Okay.
So on the grade 2 ride, when the force deck is a 10K grade 2 and you're a 9K grade 2, it's just you're struggling. If you don't have a booster, you're struggling.
Pretty much.
You're just always seeing that one to pass when you want to get that damage in. But nah, this card here, if you swing and you have nothing else studying in your front row, it gets plus 3K for every grade that your opponent Vanguard is.
Yeah.
So if they're a grade 2, it automatically hits 15.
Wow.
That's great.
What a great
magic numbers, baby. Another good thing about this card is mainly the reason why I use it is that its second ability, basically at the end of the battle it attacks, you can put it into the soul and give your Vanguard 5k until the end of the turn.
Okay.
And then also, if you have no face-up cards in your damage, it gets to unflip one.
All right. Pretty.
So this card is very nice because if one, it feels your Bustard. 2, it unflips. 3, if you're really having to put pressure down and they Hana lead you, this is also a 1-for-1.
Ah, true. Yep.
So it's very, very nice to have. I love this card. I wish I could play more, but I feel that way of every single card in Nova Grappler, man.
It's a cool robot as well.
Yeah. What do you want, Gundam? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right.
So next I'll go into grade 1s. We'll talk about the first card here, which is Rollock. I'm sure you guys have seen this card before. A lot of people have played it in the past. A lot of WCC members love this card. It's a great card.
People were saying they were taking it out of their decks. Like, Rollock.
Yeah. So I don't know why a lot of people are taking it out of their decks. Maybe it's because they're trying to find more space to play one of the old cards with the new history stuff that's coming out. However, for me, when I play Nova Grappler, I preferably like to go second.
Yes,
and if I go second, it basically makes my Buster turn my first stride, as well as it makes my Rolocks very good too, because when my opponent's going to a history stride, I can basically just block it with just a Rollock.
Yeah.
So it's very nice. It's a nice PG. And against decks like that have really great aggression in this meta, like Highlander or Neonectar, when they start beating your face from the very start, this is a very nice card to have to block like one of those huge numbers they have with criticals. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, makes sense.
So it's just a little bit of survivability for the deck because the deck is quite fragile. Next cards I want to show you is a 2/2 split of Arashid. So basically, I play 2/2 split just because I wanted to see. I don't want to see one too many. I want to see both. But they do have their usefulness whenever you do see them. The VRS shit obviously is a nice 10k. If you ride it going first, or if you ride it as your grade 1, obviously you check top 5 for a grade 3.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's a nice 13k booster. Kind of a clean card. Obviously, you don't really run that many grade 3s, so it's nice to see and play if you do get into it.
Yep.
The next one is the GR Shid. So GR Shid, this card basically is used just to search for Zubat or History Collection Victor.
Yep.
In case you do end up going first, Other than that, the application is pretty much a stride fodder.
Yeah, it's a nice option, to have.
Yeah. The only downside about it is that it's 5k.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Next grade 1 is your boy Jirohawk. So this card is very old. Very broken. I would say it's probably one of the best grade 1s in Nova Grappler's arsenal still today.
Wow.
Basically, what it does is at the end of the battle, it boosts. You can kind of boss 1. Push it into Soul, draw a card, stand the card that you boosted, and then give the card you boosted 2k. So the 2k actually really matters because if you're standing a card or if you're making a column like Gosachi and Jirohawk, on the initial swing it'll obviously be 16, but when it restands, Gosachi will become 16 plus 2, so it's 18. So that automatically makes a magic number versus 13Ks. So it's very important as well. Another thing that's really good about this card is that it goes into your soul and it draws you cards. So it already refunds itself by restanding and kind of bossing 1, but it makes use of itself even further by being a good card for Bustard. So when it restands a card and goes into your soul, you automatically trigger Bustard's ability by soul blasting the exact same card out and getting an additional drive check. So it's just a beautiful card. Like it's basically a net like a +2. Like
it's like it's poetry, man. It just rhymes. It all goes.
Yeah. Exactly. The next grade 1 is some of you guys might know this card, but I play 3 Gunsden.
This guy.
So this Gunsden card is the pure menace of Nova Grappler right now. So any decks that have like Denial Griffins or what else is there? Yeah, any type of disruption, denial griffins, what is it, cannoneer?
Yeah.
Those don't exist anymore. Those don't do anything to you. Yeah, get out of here. You don't do anything to me anymore. This card gives 5 units resist on rest during act phase. And its second ability is pretty much when it stands, it checks how many cards are in your G zone and gets plus 4k for every card in your G zone. Yeah. So if you're doing this card with a Trigger, so GB8, and you have 7 cards in your G zone, it stands with plus 28. So 28 plus 7, that's 35, man.
I totally forgot about that second effect. I only remember this for the first effect because it was so good. But it has that second effect, dude.
Yeah, so it gets pumped by like a crazy and absurd amount of numbers, especially if you also have your boy Sazanda.
Yeah, true.
So Sazanda,
the 2 billion restanders now. So
so you have so many restanders, and you get so much power. So on top of being a 35k beat stick on GB8s, it can become a 40k, 45, 50k. It just keeps going. It keeps growing. Like it's nuts. Like one of my games in Worlds where I faced a Grand Blue player, and he pretty much Hanalee'd me, but only used one Hanalee. And I pretty much used GB8, and I slammed down double Gunston column. And I basically rested them both, gave my whole board resist, and then I stood it on the trigger attack. And I had double Sazanda, and they basically stood for plus 38k each.
Wow.
So, plus 30k each, that's what is that? 76 plus 14, 90k. 90k attack you like, your opponent's getting hit with 90k, and then I hit a trigger. It was a crit trigger, unfortunately for my opponent. He had to eat 6 attacks of these into the face.
6.
So it's a very good card. Most people misjudge how much power a Nova Grappler can really get, especially with this card. Mm-hmm. And I find that just with Gunston alone, you don't really have to play the Maoyaki build. The Maoyaki build, I just find that it's more inconsistent. That's why I just like the Gunston better.
Nice.
And my last grade 1 is Baryon. So this card is very special to the deck because what it does is basically it filters 1 card from your hand. So first of all, it's a Victor specific PG. You have to be on grade 3 in order to use this card.
Yep.
And then second of all, when you PG, you have to kind of boss 1 and then draw a card. So my game plan with this entire deck is that I want to filter out as many cards in my deck in order to draw heal triggers as fast as possible.
Okay.
So when I draw the heal triggers, it basically accelerates my G zone, and it also draws me pieces. So I'll go over that when I get to my G Guardians, but basically it's what gets me from point A to the finisher of the deck by accelerating G zone, so you can go into either favorite champ or trigger.
Nice. All right, makes sense.
Next, I go into triggers. So I do play a high amount of criticals. So I play 9 criticals, 5 of them being cards that go into soul, and drawing a card. So these cards are filtering triggers.
It's so valuable now. Like because the new ones, the new updated ones also give you a draw and they get a damage check too.
Exactly. So this is just very good all around for Victor. I think it's a huge plus. As I said again, I'm just filtering cards, just trying to dig through my deck to get heal triggers to accelerate my turn. And obviously, if you do it on a Buster turn, you're going through heaps and heaps amount of your deck. You're going through maybe 10 cards of your deck. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you're playing the new History Collection draw or the crit, so it is also a draw trigger. All draw triggers are always good. You always get to draw your pieces. Yep. 4 Stride Fodder crits because you can never get too much. Yeah, you play a low number of grade 3s, maybe I believe 6. So just having more Stride Fathers is always great, especially if you're in the Gridora matchup per se, and you're using those grade 3s that you would stride with as re-rides. So it's just very, very important to have.
Cool.
Next, I'm gonna talk about the OT. Obviously, you play
10th and 11th crit.
Hell yeah! Obviously, you play Eldo Breath. This card scams games single-handedly. Like, it's just disgusting. And it's just great to have a card like this in your deck where it just gives you... It's like an explosive factor that your opponent has to take into account if they're allowed to guard something like Bustard. So when I was testing this deck, a lot of instances where my opponent would be at 2 or 3 damage, and then I would swing a Bustard for like 7 drive checks, and they would have to perfect guard it or just take it. And sometimes when they just take it, you're either eating crits to the face, or I randomly flip an Elder Breath and they're just dead. Like, they're gone. Goodbye. And then if you flip an Elder Breath and you just restand with Bustard, dude, like, you're ripping like at least, another PG or 2 PGs from their opponent's hand. Yeah. Because chances are your other rear guard is going to be hitting for like 50k. Also, yeah, if you flip this card on like a favorite champ turn or a trigger turn, it's goodbye. Like, your opponent's dead. Like, and then the last application about this card is, like, your opponent could hit a damage trigger OT, and it wouldn't even matter.
Yeah,
like, that's how crazy this card is. It gives your card 200 million, so like, 100 million doesn't even matter. 2
times the OT, man, and you're restanding the dude, right? Like,
hell yeah, baby. That's what you call going in. That's all for pretty much the criticals, quote unquote. Next, we'll go into my draw triggers. So I will play 2 draws. Obviously, it's to compensate for playing the Victor PGs. This is something that you can use like pre-grade 3 if you really need to. So you're getting pressured very hard and the Rolocks didn't help you, or you couldn't find Rolock, then obviously this is something like a backup, right? Yeah. This also pushes your quote-unquote damage draw triggers to 6. So it's very nice to have damage draw triggers just to keep your hand fresh and keep yourself going through more cards.
Yep.
Just for the main plan of getting heal triggers. So these heal triggers, obviously, I play a 2-2 split. This one is basically just to keep your resources, keep your counterblast low, so that you can push all in with, even if they have Honolly. So 1 Honolly, in my opinion, is not enough to stop this deck. You really need to play 2 or 3 in order to really, put this deck onto the ground. But even then, this deck has a lot of Vanguard restanders too, so you have to be very, very careful, right? Mm-hmm. I only put 2 of the grade 3 Heal Guardians just because, when I'm playing Nova Grappler, I feel like my most effective turn is having 2 or 3 counterblasts.
Yep.
That's pretty much like the limit of what I can use in one turn. Obviously, I could use more, but like, that's like the go-to. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's full combo for, Bustard or even Vic 10. Like 3 counterblasts is probably like the nicest way to go. So usually early game, you're kind of eating the damage. And you don't really want to go to 4 or 5, but sometimes this helps if your opponent just is straight
hyper
up
rush matchup or something like that.
Yeah, like they're just destroying you. Yeah. So that's pretty much it for the main deck. Next we'll go on to strides.
All right, let's continue.
All right, so next we'll just go on to strides. My first stride obviously is Harmonix Messiah.
Yeah,
the card that everybody plays. The brick wall of text, obviously. I'm not going to go into pretty much what it does. I'm pretty sure you guys all have one by now.
Yeah. You have a better one though, right? But
oh yeah. But for the sake of being true to the deck log, I'll show this one for now.
Gotta keep it true and real, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm done.
So the next card, obviously, is the History Collection card, Vic 10. You don't really go into this guy as much, but you'll really only go into him when you want to stride into your pretty much G stride, just to make 2 Excel circles. I usually do only leave him if I do go second. I leave 1 up just so that it's a free stride that gets into like a restander, like 1 restand. It's better than nothing if you can't, countercharge in any way, but it's pretty grim if like you're in that situation.
Not the most ideal.
Yeah. Next card is Bustard. So this is the apex predator in this deck.
Buster is busted.
Yes, busted. Mito Kaiser, busted. So this guy, pretty much, every time something restands, you get to Soul Blast 1, flip a card in your G zone, and he gets 1 additional drive. And his second ability is that at the end of the battle he attacks, you can discard 3 cards.
Yep.
And stand him, and he gets -5 drive.
Wow.
So... the second effect I don't really use all the time, just because I want to keep my hand fat and nice, just to be able to live and guard, or for my combo pieces next turn, because one of your strides do require a lot of hand in order to pop off. It's called Favorite Champ Victor. We'll talk about that right after. But Victor or Buster is definitely one of the best cards in this deck. So it helps you keeps up in this meta, because extra drive checks just mean extra cards in your hand.
That's right.
And if you're already pushed to high damage early game and you get the Bustard for like, I don't know, 7 or 8 drive checks, you would think like a heal would be in there somewhere, right?
That's right. You're gonna get a
and exactly. And then if you're bustering for 7 or 8 drive checks, obviously you're going to have like that's 5 or 6 face-up cards in your G zone at the end of the turn. So all you really need to do is like G guard once or twice, and you'll pretty much be at GB8 the next following turn.
Nice.
So it really, really helps. It's such a great card. It pluses really hard. It hits really hard. If your opponent is usually at like 2 or 3 damage, usually they either take it or they just PG.
Yeah.
And like I said before, they might just eat a mouthful of crits.
Yeah. I remember when like Premium was being reintroduced back in Japan, right? Everyone was playing like these busted decks trying to trigger rotate.
Yeah, bro. That's honestly, man, Elder Breath and Busted, it's such a scam play, but it works. Like it just works.
Yeah, I think like a lot of people play Busted, they go all in on Busted, right? But from what it sounds like, you go, I just want cards. I'm setting up my next turn, yeah?
Yeah, it's basically just farming. This is why I call it my sandbag turn. But 2, just in case you really need to, do a second push for a restander Vanguard. It's just nice versus stuff like Gridora, things like that,
Yep.
Next card is Mito Kaiser Victor, the Winning Champ Victor.
Yep. So
basically, this is what people call the People's Champ card in the past, before Buster came out. It's basically another accelerator for your G zone. So every time something stands, you get to Soul Blast 1 and flip a card face up. And you give this card and that card 5k instead of getting an extra drive check. And then its other ability. So this card is very good in a situation where your opponent would have 1 Hanali on the field and they wouldn't activate the Hanali's effect.
Greedy.
Yeah, very greedy. So you would swing this card and pretty much GB3, you just pop their Hanali and you just draw a card.
True, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, so it's just good to have, just in case you find yourself needing to, you pop 1 card. Your opponent really need that special Hanali that they have on the field in order for you to go to game.
It's usually the weakest card on the board. Yeah.
Yeah. Next, one of the newer cards that just got introduced, Nova Grappler, Merciless Dragon. Basically, this is your standard Nova Grappler restander. If you're facing decks like Gridora, or even like if they have like a ton of Hanalis, this is like your answer.
Yep.
It just restands itself, and every time it restands, it gets -1 drive. Usually you restand like maybe twice or something like that. But in order to trigger it, you have to restand something else first.
Okay.
But it gets the job done. If you do hit Elder Breath with this card, then go nuts. If you have 5 open CB, you'll go nuts, man. It's crazy. Yeah. Or if you even have the dual flare guy, you can go crazy. You can go even further, right?
Yes.
Next, we're starting getting into the finishers. So I guess the first finisher we'll talk about is Favorite Champ.
This guy.
So this card is absolutely nuts. I have, before in the past, 0 to 6 people. I have 1 to 6 people with this card. It's just completely bonkers. It's something they'll never see coming.
I actually think like a lot of people don't realize the potential of the deck. Like, oh, it's so cool, you can go all in, but like they've never experienced, the full farm and the full go in power of this card.
Yeah. And it's just even crazier now that if you have, if you can make 2 Excel circles and you can put double Sazand on them, and when you go into favorite champion, you're restanding your entire board all at once. Sazanda gives everything 10k, and then everything that restood, Sazanda gets 5k additional to itself. Like, bro, it gets ridiculous after the first try, after the first stand. And what I like to do is like sometimes, even if you're at like 3 damage, it's nice to even go into this card if you think you can kill them. Okay. If their hand quality is not as good, you just put them on that, and then you're just resetting like what 3 or 4 cards. Yeah. With Sazandas, it's just enough. Like it's either that or you go guns in, and the power is just enough to be able to restand your board like 3 times. It's enough,
Yeah.
So this card is basically one of the smaller finishers in this deck.
Smaller
finishers. And it's one of the reasons why like I kind of just farm a lot with Busted, because this card requires you to ditch 4 cards in order to restand the whole field. So it is quite expensive.
Okay. But you're farming the whole game, so
exactly. And then the next finisher is Stark. Obviously, it's just nice to have 3 Vanguard swings. What can ever go wrong?
Yeah, Vanguard swing. Enough said.
Yeah, it's just 3 Vanguard swings. It's nice to have. Nothing can go wrong. Cute, I would say. Next card is Origorum. So this card, hell yeah, man. So this card is actually really great. Really? If you're facing a deck, that is going to get an insane amount of power on their Vanguard, like Angel Feather, or even if they play the Neo Nectar build where they do Innis and they combo with the water. I think it's the water breathing dragon, right?
Yeah.
And then they pop out the Antero.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go up to like what 30 AK base. You can set them down to 0. You can set them down to 0 with this card.
True.
Like it's
true.
So it makes their whole thing like useless. Another thing is that if you have the game in the bag and your opponent's only out is over trigger. Put him down to 0, man. Put him on the ground. Tell him where he belongs. Play this card.
True.
And tell him just eat that card, bro. Tell him just eat it, bro. Like this is nice to have.
Okay.
The final card in my stride zone, for my stride units, is Drigger, the big bad Drigger. Most people would say this is probably the best GB8 out of all clans. In my opinion,
it's one of the very few that are still used, apart from the Narukami one.
Yeah.
I think pretty much these 2 are the main ones, right?
Yeah. I think this card is it's probably like top 3 of the best GB8s. Definitely the best Nova Grappler finisher. It's 1 counterblast, stand your entire board. For every card that stands, he gets 5k, so he becomes absolutely massive. Yeah. And then give whatever you stood the ability that whenever it rests, you can stand it again. So like I said before, I always combo this card with Gunsden. So Gunsden gets absolutely massive. It goes up to like 50, 70, 80, 100k even.
Yeah.
With this card along with Sazanda. And then if you're using it with Spiral Breaker, the grade 2 promo, man, like you're using like what? 1 counterblast that entire turn? The rest of those counterblasts can go into Honolly Fathers. That's why I always say 1 Honolly is not enough.
Yeah. And then see you later. You're dead.
Yeah, bro. See you later. Now we'll go into the G-Zone cards. I only play 5 G Guardians, but the first one is most important. Dogen Titan. So this card is very old, but has very, very good applications. Basically, if your opponent has more units than you, it gets plus 10k. and then while it's face up in your G zone, you could Soul Blast 1, turn it face down, choose a card, and turn it face up. So you can either choose your damage zone, so you turn that card face up, so CC1, or you can unlock a card.
Yeah.
So this just makes Elite Joker eat ass.
It's a joke. Yeah.
So it's very, very good. You know, if you want to like full combo them and have like a card that just uses like a counterblast initially and then unflip it afterwards, it's really great. For example, like Zubat, you would stride, activate Zubat's ability, counterblast 1, draw a card, call a card, and then you can activate this to Soul Blast 1 and then get that refunded back, so you can use all your CB for, you know, a whole combo turn. It's really great.
Nice, nice.
Next card is the new G Guard, Stiff Need. So I played 2 Stiff Need. This card, I don't know. Sometimes I feel really good about it. Sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
However, this card is your biggest shield. So it's kind of blast 1 or more. It gets 5k for every face down card you have. And then if you counterblast 2, you get to draw a card. If you counterblast 3, you get to draw 2 cards. So when I said before about filtering through your cards in order to get your pieces, your heal triggers, or even your PGs, this does the job. It's really great. It gets you everything you need for at least drawing power, at least.
There's like a lot of mixed thoughts on this card, because like drawing's good, but CVing a bunch is not that good.
Yeah. So CVing a bunch is not that good. That's why I do play the 2 unflip heals. Yeah. So it's very, very good. But it leads into the next G Guard, the final G Guards, which is Gundreed. So Gundreed is actually one of the more broken G Guards in my opinion. Basically, he comes out and he gives your Vanguard the ability. When the attack did not go through that attacks your Vanguard, you can unflip 1.
Wow.
Yeah. So that he gives it for the entire turn.
Yeah.
So if you use this card first and then you use Baryon, that Baryon CB that drew 1 card becomes free. Right? So that becomes free. Stiff Need. If you're going to use Stiff Need right afterwards, then that becomes what? Counterblast 2, draw 2 cards.
It's not bad. Yep.
Yeah, so it's not bad. But if you also pair it up with like one of these, then you know it's an unflip 1. It's an unflip 1, so Counterblast 1, draw 2 cards. Yeah, right. Good. So this helps accelerate your turns. Just get you ready and prepped for your next kill turn. But if you do use this early and you're just guarding normally, whatever their normal attacks are, then you will get to unflip continuously throughout the entire turn. The only way that doesn't work is that if they attack your rear guards directly. Man. But if they do and you're drawing a lot of cards, then like that's a win anyways, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But that's pretty much it for my Nova Grappler build.
Yeah, it's crazy. Nova Grapplers.
Nova Grapplers for top 4 worlds. Wow.
Yeah.
Could you guys ever imagine?
I didn't. I was like, is Steven actually going to play Novas? That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this for the invitational for different fight as well, but I feel like it would have been better to showcase off the new Highlander stuff with my 1 game, baby. Let's go.
So now that you've topped with Novas, are you ever bringing it out again?
That's a good question. You know, now that the hat is pretty much out of the bag, I feel like
is this like a surprise deck? You know, like
I feel like it is, but I feel like it also takes a really good pilot to play this deck. It's definitely not your average Joe can just pick up this deck and know what to do. 100%. Everything is very situational, knowing how to guard, knowing what cards to pick up.
You need to manage your resources very well. Like, you have to plan it out very well, because Nova Grappler will reward you for, like, you know, using your resources and then refunding it all again, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And
so Nova Grapplers definitely takes a hard, well-taught pilot in order to play. But I might bring it to another event. If there are some better cards that come out in the future that might help Nova Grapplers do some better stuff, like unflip better or maybe generate some more soul. I definitely will be trying some different builds with Nova Grapplers. But for now, I think this build is probably perfect for the current meta.
Yeah.
So
because the meta
if you guys
doesn't change that much, I think, right?
Yeah. So if you guys do want to try it, this build is, I believe, is very cheap.
Currently,
maybe
for now.
for now. Oh yeah. So there was another card I wanted to put in. His name is called Tribute.
Yep.
This stride here, basically, his ability is that whenever something restands, you can counterblast one and choose one of your opponent's cards with power less than or equal to your card that stood, and retire it.
Okay.
So this is
you're already ahead of the game.
Yeah. So it was a nice card versus Hanley, but you really have nothing you can do when they just banish it.
Yeah.
So I decided not to really put it into the list. Plus, Counterblast 1 is also very expensive if you're using Counterblast 1 to also restand.
Yeah.
You have to make sure your resources are very in line.
I mean,
when you're playing this deck.
What can people really do, right? Like, they can put in more Honleys, but a lot of decks just don't have that much space for, like, 4x Honley, for example, right?
Yeah, and like they have to have like 2 Honleys at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like one, like I said before, if one isn't enough, but if they have 2, then obviously yeah. But the only deck I know that can do that right now is probably maybe Grand Blue, but they wouldn't even play 2 Honley. OTT maybe, yeah, or Neo, yeah, or then there's Neo Nectar, but Neo Nectars, they have to actively be searching the Honleys, like off the Katrina, and then if they don't, then their aggression is a lot less.
Yeah, I guess like Neo Nectar is kind of like a bad matchup, like I think you mentioned before, right? But
yeah, I would say that's probably the worst matchup, but it's more so if your opponent knows what they're doing as Neo Nectar. If they don't know what they're doing and they don't only put like one Honley at a time, like you're just gonna bash their face.
Yeah. I guess the other thing is like because you're running so many of the old cards, right? I guess defensive wise, it feels a bit weak. That's why you have to run some Rolocks, but is it really that weak? Like after you get to your busted turn and just farm up, I think you probably just feel pretty safe after that, right? Yeah,
you feel pretty safe, but it's just getting there that's the problem. Yeah. That's why the Rolocks are in there. But then other than that, you really do rely on your G guards in order to survive, and you try to want to just kill them as soon as possible whenever you have like 5 or 7 G zone face up.
Is there ever a time when you go, I checked 3 crits on busted, let's just restand because it's lethal, or are you just putting them on the Gosachis and restanding them? Keeping your hand, for example.
Usually I would put it on like a Gosachi, but like you would have to read if their hand was already low.
Okay.
So if their hand was, it's very situational, but if their hand was like maybe 7 cards and like that PG could die, or like their PG in their hand, like you want to get rid of it, and then you look at your hand, like say you stroke check 7 and you restood, you have 3 like useless cards you don't want to see anymore. You can just ditch those 3 useless cards and then just restand and draw check 2, and hopefully you look for like more heals or something like that.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's all you have to think about, like if it's if the filter is worth it or not.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. Anyway, any shout outs you want to give? This crazy deck profile. Really liked it.
For sure. I definitely want to shout out all of WCC for sure. Everyone who has helped me practice this deck. I want to shout out to my friends back from Canada. Gearson, he told me to play Nova Grappler. I played it, bro. I did you a favor. Richard Doan, I am the people's champ, top 4, baby. Everyone back home in Toronto and Vancouver for sure. Vancouver, especially for being my testing ground to see if Nova Grappler could even match up in this type of meta.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it.
All right. Thanks for giving us your time. So even goes your knowledge right now. Everyone knows well, at least I know Origorium is not terrible. It can be. We've been learning.
Yo, for real.
But yeah, no, thanks
For
a
real,
lot
for real.
for sharing the your deck profile and letting us know. I know it's so good now, and congrats. Right? Hope it goes well in the future too.
Oh yeah.
All right, see you later, everyone.